Welcome back, family. I wanted to correct myself. In the past, I had made a video called The Most Soundproof of the Biblical Earth, and I had discussed what I thought were the greatest distances sound had traveled and been detected, and I was wrong. And so I want to come back and right the wrongs, and it's thanks to someone in the comments who actually addressed a greater distance, one that goes beyond what I had thought had ever been recorded on this biblical earth. And so I want to share that real quick. And the proof that I had shared was one that I came across last year with CreationStandard when I was looking at the moon. And so the study on the moon brought me to a volcano that they say changed the color of the moon for an entire year, made the world colder, all these different things where the sound traveled 3,000 miles. And according to curve calculators, that is a large distance. The line of sight at that distance to the volcano would have been about 970 miles in elevation. So you'd have to go that high to see the volcano on a globe. Now, sounds don't just travel, in perfectly straight lines. They kind of spread out in a spherical shape. However, we have a region up above us that sound doesn't travel in once you get above about 99 miles. The bulge of Earth curvature, though, in between those 2 points would have been about 280 miles. Quite the distance. That was Krakatoa, a powerful volcano. But the comment that corrected me was one from somebody here who said the eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hayapi volcano, if I'm even saying that right, was reportedly heard as far away as 8,000 kilometers. And so that comment had me investigate that claim because that sounds crazy. And so I did just that. I investigated that claim, and this is impressive. That particular volcano erupted back in 2021. So not that long ago, a time where our technology was pretty advanced and could detect these things. And so when this thing erupted, it began erupting in December of 2021 and then crossed over into the fake new year, January 2022. And they say the largest eruption took place on the 15th of January. And so that eruption was definitely impressive because they say that the column from this thing went all the way to a height of 36 miles. To put that in perspective, the highest world record for balloon flight is about 33 miles. Of course, yeah, there's their number there. But this went 3 miles beyond that. So 3 miles further than the less dense gases like hydrogen and helium can stack up above our air. It went beyond that, and it was loud. They say that it was heard as far away as Canada, 6,000 miles away. Shock waves were reported as having gone around the earth as many as 4 times in Japan and Utah, and at least twice at the Blue Hill Meteorological Observatory in Massachusetts. The pressure shock waves was also observed in Chennai, India, which is about 12,000 kilometers from the eruption site. The volcanic explosion caused atmospheric shock waves to propagate around the world. So, circumnavigating sounds, sounds that originated right here out in the Pacific and allegedly circumnavigated the globe. Think about that. Sounds circumnavigating not once, but up to 4 times. And some sources claim 8 times. I think that is an impossibility on the globe. And so these booms being heard 6,000 miles away from this remote location in the Pacific, they say that this eruption created ripples similar to a pond. Yeah, ponds are flat. And the audible sounds, while much of the energy was in infrasound, yeah, imagine that. They had to create something new, kind of like they invented the ionosphere when line of sight signals made it across the Atlantic. Now they got infrasound, but the audible booms going 6,000 miles. Here is alleged satellite imagery of this explosion, where they just so happened to have a stationary satellite filming this thing right above it, when it went off. Yeah, right. And so the other bogus imagery here, look at this. They say it was like ripples in a pond. We know that ponds are flat, but they have this ripple captured from space going around their cartoon ball. So imagine it doing that 8 times. That is impossible. These ripples would have ran into each other on the other side of the globe. They would not keep circumnavigating 8 times. Now, when you look up echoes, imagine this sound echoing off of the barrier up above us. Can sounds echo up to 8 times? Yes, a sound can echo between two barriers up to 8 or even more times. So that's why sometimes it was 4 times, sometimes it was 8 times. It just depends on the location and where they are in relation to the firmament, as well as other, topographical barriers and ridges and acoustic shadows and all of that. But that is a wonderful proof of biblical cosmology, even when you factor in how sound travels. Because most people, when you share this, they will say sounds can travel around corners. They can do the same with curve. Look at this image. Yeah, when you look at this image, it does seem that it would be possible because this is a right angle, and look, the person around the corner can hear you. The problem is this is not to scale with the globe. With those sounds traveling outwards in circles, you think you could just draw it out like this and go, see, look, there it is. It can reach New Zealand and Canada and all these different places, Alaska, and so on. Well, problem with that is that we have what is known as an acoustic zone that begins at 99 miles where sounds can no longer travel. That's where they say there are no molecules for sounds to vibrate and travel. And so we are stuck with this thin little area, this blue line that I've put around their cartoon globe for sound to travel within. So they can't spread out that far in a spherical shape. Put a little bubble here so you can see if it was happening from that area, spreading out in a spherical direction like they say, it would be confined to this little area right here. It's not going to venture outwards beyond that because that is that an acoustic zone that they tell us exists at 99 miles. And so that ripple on the pond would have to avoid that, and sound waves don't bounce off of the ionosphere like they claim that other signals that are line of sight do. So you can't save it with refraction. There is a massive amount of curvature in between these locations. So much, just to give you a little visual here, at 6,000 miles, the target, in order to be in a line of sight from the furthest points of the sound traveling, would need to be 2,504 miles in elevation just to get a line of sight. That is extremely high. That would put them way beyond the ISS, out there further than they like to venture because, we're stuck in low Earth orbit, can't go that far. But sounds can somehow do these miraculous things. And so I wanted to share these new findings that I had somehow missed. I'm sure when it happened, it was just one of those minor notes in the news because there was a lot going on in the news around that time, 2021. I think we were all investigating other stuff that was going on worldwide at that time. And so the Hunga Tonga Hunga volcanic eruption is a good one to share because it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the world is not curved like they say. Sounds would run into many barriers, just like we saw when we were looking at the seafloor that had been mapped out by the Geological Society of America back in the 1950s. They recorded the elevation changes in relation to a flat surface line. And sounds, like we pointed out last time, can travel the distances they say they can without interference from acoustic shadows at certain depths in the water if the surface is flat. But if you factor in the curve, you have to be extremely high in elevation, so high that you're no longer in the water and you're out there beyond the ISS. 869.7 miles just to get a line of sight. Of course, sound can travel around some minor obstacles underwater, but when you have these acoustic shadow zones for sounds and for even sonar, the measurements will match the biblical Earth 100% of the time and not the globe Earth. And so the curvature narrative gets further destroyed here. And I wanted to update myself and correct my wrongs because it's been bothering me that I did that. I'm going to take that video down and have this one here. I can still link it in the description for those of you who are interested in it because some of the information was valid. And so I hope this makes sense. I'm looking forward to going live soon and spending time in fellowship with you guys. I thank you for all that you share because I can then take that wisdom and share it with these young truth soldiers that are joining us with Creation Standard and help their faith increase as these end time deceptions are ramping up. And so our Father is setting apart a special group of people right now, you guys included, that are going to have faith that is needed to stand up against the lies and these lying signs and wonders that are quickly approaching in these last days. And so you guys are the best. I thank you for all of your support. And as always, stay humble, stay ready, and we'll see you next time.